All right, hey everyone, this is Graham over here.
Yeah, this is Ashkahn.
I'm just kidding. This is Ashkahn.
And I'm Graham. And today's question for you is, do you require your employees to stick to a script or just bullet points for their new client introductions?
For the walkthroughs.
The old walkthroughs.
The old walkthrough speech-roonies.
Yeah, so we don't have a script so much. It's also just kind of not float-on style to really force people into an exact way of doing things. Yeah, so we don't have a dress code, no script for our walkthroughs.
We don't even have regular. We just pull whoever's off the street that morning, and that's who runs our shop. So yeah, we have we don't have an actual hey, here's exactly what you need to say, but we do have when we train people, we kind of go through the list of things. I guess like you're saying, a bullet point list of everything that we want to say, and we have that person in training come and be a part of a bunch of walkthroughs that somebody else is doing. So I think naturally they kind of pick up the same sort of general feel to each other, and probably the content is mostly the same. I'd say probably over 90% similar between all of our employees.
Yep.
And then another thing we do is we have our employees kind of do their walkthroughs in front of each other every once in a while. We have these kind of monthly meetings, and every once in a while we'll just do that. We'll have a couple people hop in a room and do their walkthrough speech, and have other people be like, "Oh man, that was good! That one thing you said about the earplugs, I'm totally gonna start saying that. That's useful." Or, "Hey, I mentioned this other thing that you didn't say," and that kind of just doing it in front of each other allows for the people to kind of transfer things back and forth and bring a little bit more consistency to our walkthroughs.
Yeah, or things that went horribly, oh, maybe you shouldn't make those off-color jokes during your walkthrough. You might want to consider removing that from. So one of the benefits of this, which is one of the reasons that we kind of don't like just passing down a one-size-fits-all kind of script, is I think it's really important when you're introducing someone to the float tanks for the first time to be really sensitive to that person and their needs going into it. And a lot of our walkthroughs start initially just by getting a sense of how much people even know about floating, right? A person coming in who it's still their first float, but they've done a bunch of research, their wife has floated a bunch of times and maybe is a member, is different from someone who's coming in and it's their birthday and their wife is surprising them with this weird float thing that neither of them has done, and he didn't even know where he was until he took off the blindfold, right? So even just the level of knowledge and education and people's fears, too, I think can be addressed better when there's not a very strict script that everyone is sticking to.
Yeah, and I think people just, when they do things that feel comfortable to them, they do it better.
Yeah.
If they're just man, that's not how I would say that. Forcing someone to say something in a way they wouldn't say it is probably going to make them sound artificial when they actually go to say it.
Hello, sir or madam.
Yeah, right? I mean, you hear that. You call any customer service or a big chain company, and whenever they pick up the phone, you can hear the script that they had to say, and they say it at 3 times the normal speed humans usually talk, and it's these way more kind of articulated words than people are used to using in sentences, and it's just so you're ugh. It feels very artificial and forced from above or something. I don't think it's not going to, we don't have a call center of people working in float centers. I don't think it's going to get quite to that level. But I think to a degree that same sort of effect can happen if you're really forcing someone to do something that they maybe don't think is the most comfortable way or the best way that they could express it.
Yeah, and I just think being in tune with how much people are paying attention as well. Some people are just really excited when they're going into float, and they're not exactly focusing on everything that you're saying. And being able to see that on their face and pay attention to it and be no, look, they're earplugs. They're optional. You can put them on or not. They're oh, okay. Or oftentimes we'll finish a walkthrough, and it's amazing the amount of times you've finished, and you've said exactly that the music's going to come on at the end of the float, and that's how they'll be notified. And you kind of finish up, and they're wait, how do I know this is over again? You're just oh man, how much have you actually been tuning in? Know. So again, I feel like a script encourages people to pay attention to what they're saying, and having bullet points or all these general things that are important to cover. But letting them kind of wing it on the fly makes them pay attention to the customer more.
And, I feel like our walkthroughs have improved as employees are like, hey, maybe we should really be mentioning this to people or something like that. Like having that kind of flexibility for it to organically grow and become better as people think of better ways of saying things or information to include is also nice. Not that they couldn't change the script, I guess. Like you'd have to, ideally if you had a much more regimented thing, you'd want some sort of system in place to allow people to update it.
Yeah, and that's kind of more general philosophy, but any system that you set up that has difficulty changing or can't be changed at all is eventually going to be a very bad system. So kind of continuous evolution is at least the goal to build into things, regardless of what they are, script or anything, what you eat for lunch.
And I don't know. I mean, I can see the concern of not having a script being that people won't say everything you want them to say. And so I think that's just where the rest of it comes in, having people hear each other's walkthrough speeches, going through information like that. Like it just takes a little bit more effort to make sure everyone's on the same page and kind of hitting the points that you want to make sure everyone's hitting.
Yeah, and everything slips over time, right? So if you only do this once a year, expect at the end of that year your walkthrough speeches to have some differences between them, right? But if you're doing it every couple months or every quarter or something like that, having everyone kind of review things, you'll probably be surprised with how consistent they stay and how much they do kind of just improve little by little over time.
Yeah.
So I think that's it.
Cool. All right. Well, great. If you guys have other questions that you want us to answer, you can go to floattanksolutions.com/podcast and send them our way.
All right. Thanks, everybody. And talk to you tomorrow.
Right.